Ready.
All righty. Well, I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting of the Seldovia Planning Commission to order on February 4th, 2026, and at 6 p.m. And if the clerk could do the roll call, please.
Commissioner Kroll,
Yeah, here.
Commissioner Ryan,
Here.
Commissioner Forsberg,
Here.
and Commissioner Sweet.
Thank you. And then I'd like to go ahead and ask for approval of the agenda. If I could have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Kroll. And if I could have a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Forsberg. And if the clerk could take the roll.
For the approval of the agenda, Commissioner Kroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan,
Yes.
Commissioner Forsberg,
Yes.
and Commissioner Sweet.
Yes,
That is 4 yeas, Madam Chair.
thank you. And then the next is a motion to approve the minutes for October 1st and January 2nd.
And for the commissioner's information, this is in the laydown, both sets of minutes, October 1st and January 7th. And it's helpful. I can put them up on the screen.
And if somebody could give me a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
And could I have a second?
I'll second that.
And if the clerk could take the roll.
Commissioner Kroll,
Here.
this would be for approval of the minutes. Is that a yes vote?
Yeah.
Commissioner Ryan,
I was trying to find them. I guess, do I have to vote yes or no? Because I haven't read them.
I can put them up on the screen real quick if you want to take a moment.
Okay. I got the laydown, but I can't find it again.
So I think there might be two sets of documents. Are the minutes in the laydown?
Correct. The
So
minutes
if
are
you
in the
have-
laydown.
If you have a document that's called the laydown, and it
Okay.
was emailed out today,
Oh, here it is on
Look it
screen
up.
now.
I'll put the October 1st ones up here.
and it, so we'll take 5 minutes. We'll take 5 minutes to allow people to review the minutes, and it's about 10 after right now, depending on which clock we're looking at, but we'll just take 5 minutes and let people take a look at this, and then we'll call it back to order.
Do you have the minutes for the November 5th meeting to discuss?
The minutes for,
The November 5th meeting?
no, those have already been approved. But, oh no,
We
we
didn't have.
we
I
didn't
don't
have
think we
that
had it.
November 5th meeting.
Did we?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
What? But that's the one I was back in Seldovia for, not in October.
Because there's, let's see, or was it December that we?
I believe you were here for a joint work session with the city council.
Yes. That was the November meeting, wasn't it?
That was a work session. We did that in place of the November meeting, so there
Oh,
are
okay.
minutes from that.
That was a play date.
Right. Hmm. All right, well, I guess. Yeah, I saw what I need to see. Looks good to me.
Did you want to look at the minutes from January 7th?
Sure.
So this is Randy just checking in. Has everybody been able to review the minutes?
Allison, yes, I have.
Commissioner Kroll,
Yes,
have you been able to review the minutes?
yes,
Okay. So, we have a motion on the floor and, which has been,
We still need the motion.
okay, okay, so I need to get a motion.
move to approve.
Yeah, we were starting to, and then it was, I think
Okay.
we were starting to go through the roll call and then we kind of stopped to be able to make sure that everybody had a chance to look at it.
So we have,
So if we can just, we can just start from the beginning if you want.
no, that's fine. If we have a
okay.
motion by Forsberg and a second by Kroll for approval of the minute.
And then I think Yeah, and then if you could just do the roll call for the commissioners on the approval of the agenda for the 1st of October and the 7th of January.
Yeah, so there's a motion on table for the approval of minutes for October 1st, 2025 and January 7th, 2026. Commissioner Kroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan,
Yes,
Commissioner Forsberg,
Yes,
and Commissioner Sweet.
Yes.
That is 4 yeas.
And that takes us to item E, public comments regarding items not on the agenda.
I do not see any public attendance at this time.
And item F is public hearings prior notice, and we have none. And consideration of site plans, none. And that takes us to commission business. And so the first item is a draft ordinance 26 XX, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, amending Chapter 18 public hearings to entitle it quasi judicial public hearings and adding section 18.96.030, authorizing the Board of Adjustment and the Planning Commission to use a hearing officer to make quasi judicial decisions, and amending sections 18.88.020, .010, .050, whoops. Not, sorry, because sorry, let me correct that. So it's 18.88.020, 18.92.010, 18.92.050, 18.96.010, 18.96.020, and 18.97.010 to clarify the difference between quasi-judicial and legislative actions and hearings before city bodies and officials. And I think I would like to turn this over to the city clerk for a review of this.
Yeah, so on page 5 of your packet, and I have it shared on the screen, you'll find a memo they wrote just kind of with an overview. This is the public hearing officer ordinance that we've been working with legal on. And it clarifies the process for quasi judicial and legislative proceedings and appeals, and allows for the Seldovia Planning Commission, when acting in a quasi judicial manner, or the Board of Adjustment, to move that appeal process to a public hearing officer. So it just kind of provides that option here. So you can see on page 5, there's a summary of the changes that the ordinance would make. And it changes it in a number of places. It would retitle a section public hearings to quasi judicial public hearings and defines what a public hearing is. And section 6 adds qualifying language that quasi judicial public hearings do not govern public hearings held on legislative action. And section 7 of the ordinance adds a new section providing for that hearing officer, to which the planning commissioner or board of adjustment can transfer that decision-making authority on quasi judicial actions or appeals. And the rest of it kind of just does a bunch of renumbering, and I've attached the draft ordinance here, as well as the current municipal code chapters 18.88, 18.92 through 18.97. I guess I'll open it up for any other comments or discussions, Madam Chair.
So just to kind of, I guess from a sort of practical standpoint, if something comes before the planning commission and there's an appeal, then the hearing officer can hear that appeal. If something goes to the city council and then there's an appeal, then through the board, I guess.
So to clarify, if the planning commission sits in a quasi judicial capacity, they could elect and decide to transfer that authority to a public hearing officer instead for something like a variance or a conditional use. In addition, if the city council is sitting as the board of adjustment, they also would have the option to send, instead of hearing it as the board of adjustment, to send that to a public hearing officer.
Right. So, but the normal course of business occurs and it's in the appeals process specifically that the hearing officer is used, or is it that if we have, because I guess a variance would be a quasi judicial
Mhm.
issue, right? So is it from the beginning of the process, or is it only if there's an appeal?
Heidi, do you want to jump in?
So through the chair, so if you look at section 3 and section 4, it does clarify who may appeal and then the body to hear appeals, where it's 18.92.050A, appeals from a quasi judicial action or determination made by the city manager are heard by the city planning commission unless otherwise provided by this title. B, appeals from a quasi judicial action or determination by the city planning commission are heard by the board of adjustment unless otherwise provided. And then C, appeals from the quasi judicial action or determination by the board of adjustment. So it's walking you through how that appeal would be heard unless otherwise provided. And then later it provides that in this ordinance that those bodies, the planning commission or the board of adjustment, can refer that action to a public hearing officer instead of sitting and hearing it.
Right. But
So it is for
it
it's for an
specifically, I
appeal.
just want, yeah,
Yeah.
so so what I'm trying to clarify in my own mind, just sort of in English, is just the normal processes occur, and then if there's an appeal, there's an option to use a hearing officer for an appeal.
Correct.
That, okay. I just want to make sure that I was understanding. Okay. And any questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, this is Allison. I keep looking to see what, like, has this word quasi judicial this is the first time I've ever heard it. And is, so in the past, when it was appealed, it was not quasi judicial, or it's just, yeah, I don't understand why this new word is being used.
Through the chair, yes, thank you. There was some confusion in the past because the action taken by the council was a legislative action and not a quasi judicial action. So this helps to clarify that in code, that quasi judicial actions it's a legal term. And they're actions where the body is sitting as a somewhat judge. They're making the decision. So when you're making a conditional use decision or a variance, and you're making the decision for the city on behalf of the city council, that's a quasi judicial action. Versus whereas if you're recommending or referring something to the council, then typically that's a legislative action. So where this code is, the hope is for that to be clearer moving forward, so that there's better understanding of that.
Okay. I thought we never made decisions as planning council. We just made recommendations to city council.
Through the chair, no, there are a few instances on, for instance, a conditional use or a variance. Those are the normal two that decision is made by the body with a majority +1. So it does take a +4 vote. And it doesn't go further. So it doesn't go to the city council typically, or to the Kenai Peninsula Borough. That is a decision that this body makes on behalf of the city for the community. So there are instances where the planning commission does make decisions.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other further questions?
And it's usually on an appeal. Is that what it?
Chair, for the public hearing officer, yes. So the bodies could choose to have a resolution and stating we want to use a public hearing officer for appeals, for a certain time certain moving forward to to set this process and see how that works for the city. Um, but otherwise you still have that option to sit and hear the appeal if you want to. But yes, the public hearing officers is for appeals.
And I guess the benefit of having a public hearing officer is somebody who has that expertise. And so if we've gone through our process and then it's a fresh set of eyes, and then also somebody who has that expertise that could help bring, a different perspective.
Through the chair, and I might say they're a third party as well, so they're not they may not have the same investments or
Unbiased.
yeah.
More unbiased.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I guess I'm wondering who would be the candidate for the public hearing officer, for example.
Through the chair. So that's an excellent question. There are a few different agencies that do this work, but recently we learned that the city of Homer actually uses the state of Alaska. Oh, what's the agency called?
Believe it's the Office of Administrative Hearing.
The Office of Administrative Hearings. And so somebody from the state potentially could sit in here. We haven't gone through that process yet. This is the process of seeing if this is something that the planning commission and the city council wants to look into or to have available in code. But I think that it sounds like the state is a great option, but we can look at others as well.
And then I guess it sounds like everybody's gotten their questions answered. And then in terms of is there an action request for today in terms of do we need to approve this, or or is it, will there be further discussion? What is the request, if any?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this was drafted by legal. I think we're just trying to see if there's feedback, what questions there were, if there's anything else we need to go back to our attorney with. And if not, then if would be good to have were you looking for a recommendation for approval to move it to council?
So so I'm sorry. With the body, I guess what I'll just make it simple. Can I have a motion to approve the draft ordinance? No,
Recommend it to.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was thinking, do we do the motion to recommend and then any discussion, or is I mean,
Yeah.
I'm good to, but we can go ahead and
Or
think
planning
we want
commission,
it.
We do public or the commission discussion. So
And,
if
so let me ask if there's any public comment on the draft ordinance for utilizing a public hearing officer.
I'm not seeing any public comment there.
Okay, and then I guess just from the commissioners, are you comfortable with recommending this particular ordinance, or is there anything else that we should do prior to doing that?
Well, what would be the potential downsides of recommending this?
I think it's adding an option to, it doesn't require that anybody use this particular option. That's correct, right? I mean, at this point, it's not a requirement to use the
Right now there's no option to provide for hearing officers.
no, but I mean, he was asking me what's the downside of it, and it's if there is a downside, we don't have to use this if it's something that the bodies within the city want to do it themselves, we have that option. And if there's a need perhaps for an unbiased party to help with the decision making, then we have that option. I think it's just creating more options than we have right now. Right now, we have to do it ourselves, and sometimes we may be limited, within the expertise that we have, and this just gives us another option. I don't, if anybody else can see any downsides, please, contribute to our conversation. Commissioner Forsberg?
Yeah, maybe we ought to look at it a little bit if we're gonna vote on something, maybe next month or something. I don't know.
Okay.
I might, because a couple of us never ran across that word before, quasi.
Okay. And so, okay, so we can add it to our agenda for March 4th, and I believe it's March 4th, and then we can plan to vote on that, and then you'll have time to think about it between now and then. And then we've had the discussion that we've had, so whatever is helpful to take to the legal folks, it's that can be provided back to them. And then if they have in this sort of interim period, if they have anything else that they think we need to discuss, and if the staff could just bring that back and then the discussion can be continued next month, and then we can be prepared to vote on it.
And if commissioners read through and come up with additional questions, if you want to send those our way, and we get them.
This is Allison. I brought up that I hadn't heard quasi judicial and legislative, and are these defined in, where we went through all the definitions for various reviews? Are these terms also defined somewhere in our code? I think that's kind of what I'm struggling with, trying to understand. Like, oh, I don't know that there was legislative decisions, and this is just a whole new realm of how things are operating to me.
Through the chair, so I'm checking to see if it's in statute. I know that it's in the Planning Commission handbook, and that there's been trainings on it in the past from the Alaska Division of Commerce, or what is it, DCRA, Alaska Community Regional Affairs. And so that is also an option that we can request, is a training. And maybe that would be helpful to have an upcoming meeting talking about the different roles that the Planning Commission plays and takes on for the community. But let me just look here real quick. You guys should all have a copy of the Alaska Planning Commission handbook in your code book, and it does talk about those differences in there. And I'm sorry that this doesn't come up very often. But it is, let's see here, key areas include.
And perhaps that could just be when we put the meeting materials together for the meeting
Yeah.
on the 4th, we could just include excerpts from that and then confer. I don't recall if it's in our Planning Commission definitions, in our, I just don't recall if it is in the definitions, but that if it's not, perhaps that could be something that could be added just so that it's like something that doesn't come up, the definition of it doesn't necessarily come up. We do things periodically, but we don't always say, well, we are now functioning in a quasi judicial manner. And it may be a good idea to do that when we do variances and we do conditional uses. We could just say, right now, we are functioning, in a quasi judicial manner, and just say what that is so that it's clear that we're in that specific role. So would that be helpful for our discussion for next time? Just have the things that are defining some of these things, and then being able to talk about those and the ordinance, and then we're kind of just doing an overall discussion and able to make a decision that's everybody feels comfortable about.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Commissioner Kroll, is that good with you?
Yeah, it seems like, I guess homeowners doing an appeal would want the extra option, but I don't know if it says anything about them having a say in that, but I don't know, it's interesting.
Okay, thank you. And you have any other? So we'll go ahead and then does the clerk have anything else on this before we close this item out?
Nope, but I can send out the planning handbook again that has the quasi judicial training in it that we went through for the city council to the commissioners, and that might be helpful in going through that process.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. And then the next item is and then I guess just before I close that out, just wanted to make sure there wasn't any public comment before we close that one out. Okay, we'll go ahead and the next item is the draft 2026 Seldovia Planning Commission Work Plan. And it's on there's information about. Let's see.
Very small.
Sorry.
So on page 17 is the written version of the preliminary discussion, and the back page, last page of the packet has the proposed calendar work plan.
Did you say 17?
Yeah, it's like,
I guess it's page one,
yeah,
2, and because
Yeah,
like four.
the last two sheets on the package with the agenda, not the lay down.
Yeah,
So all what the purpose of this is to get your input on our work plan for this year. And on the first page where it says 2026 Seldovia Planning and Zoning Commission Work Plan preliminary discussion, it's just laying out the things that we've been keeping track of. So as you know, we've been identifying those things that we have on our list so that we don't lose track of them. And so these are the items that are on the list of the topics that we are planning to cover. So just kind of running through here, the administrative public hearing draft ordinance, we just did that. The Cedar Street extension, that's in a pending status. It's just needs the property owner to submit their permit application, which hasn't yet been done. Is that correct? For the Cedar Street extension?
Yeah,
that
we have
hasn't-
not received any
Yeah,
further
so
communication.
that's just
about that.
pending. The Seldovia comprehensive plan, we're actually waiting for the Alaska Municipal League to give us the final version. So we're just in a standby, but that's close to completion. The communication tower draft ordinance, I don't believe that hasn't been started. It's on our list of things to do. The housing needs assessment, that's a priority that the city council has identified. The planning website updates, that's work in progress that the city clerk is doing. And then there are 2 zoning reviews. One is a commercial zoning area on Winifred, Anderson Way and Shoreline. And then the other is the alternative development standards. And that's something that we started working on already. That's work in progress. And both of those have been recommended to work with the Alaska Municipal League to do some preliminary work so that they could bring it back to us. And then just for your information in terms of the let's see, and this has to do with the housing plan in the comprehensive plan. These items that are listed out, going from page 2 to 3, those are just specific items that are listed in the comprehensive plan. The first thing that would need to be done is a housing needs assessment. So that's just kind of everything else would have to flow from that, but being able to understand what our needs are in our community. And then if you go to the back page, there's just all of those things that are listed out there. There's just a short title on the project, and then there are priorities that we already know. Priority 1 would be the Seldovia comprehensive plan. That's on track to getting completed. And then the zoning review and updates, that would be priority 2. It's in progress for one of those, and the other is to be determined in terms of timing. And then I guess the administrative hearing would also be, would be a priority. So from your perspective, looking at these things, what ideas do you have in terms of when we might take these things up, and any other advice that you would like to give on this plan?
Are you looking for feedback from us?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I just thought I'd just be quiet and let you think, but yes, what are your ideas about this? What feedback do you have? And then do you have any direction on when, if there's anything as far as timing goes, if you have any thoughts on that.
Well,
It's just-
for the housing needs assessment, I thought, let's discuss the Alaska Municipal League might be a party that's working on that for us.
I the most recent housing needs assessment was being done by, I can't remember if it was part of the Kenai Peninsula Borough was doing because there was conversations between, I can't remember if it was through the Economic Development District or if it was through another organization. There were some preliminary work done on that. So we've kind of been touching on that periodically, but I guess having some substantial community conversations about what we might want in our community and why and what's important to people, that might be part of what we might need to do. So there's because kind of what I'm hearing you say, Allison, there's some technical expertise around doing community needs assessments. And then there's also the part about interacting with our community and really figuring out what is it that we want as a community and how do we go about doing it so that we're kind of helping ourselves into the future, because it seems like housing is a major anchor in what influences jobs and other things. And professional housing for teachers. I mean, there's all kinds of pieces to what might be helpful in terms of housing in our community. But so I think what we can do is just identify what role, if any, the Alaska Municipal League might take in this conversation. Does that sound like at least get that sort of nailed down and see what's possible?
Through the chair, if I may, I did mention this to Britta with Alaska Municipal League, and I think there can be some upcoming conversations on that. Well, I think we're just trying to finish the Seldovia comprehensive plan at this point, so perhaps that can be next on the list after that plan is completed. If that's the priority of the commission, we can start that process and look at it. There might also be a budgetary component to that. And so that would be a request from the council. This is in their in their capital improvement plan as a priority. So I think it's that it's warranted. The council has spoken to this being a priority. It's just a matter of figuring out those steps. Maybe on the work plan, there needs to be some way of identifying the things that I could see it could be helpful of being able to identify the things that take outside help versus being able to do internally, as well as budget and to be dedicated to it or appropriated for it, I should say. And then this kind of reminds me a little bit of a NAT chart. So then you could show like housing needs assessment could take 4 or 5 or 6 months versus maybe some of these other things would only take a couple of months and they're like the administrative public hearing, and that's a commission decision. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Just trying to think.
I think it's like I don't know that we have to like nail everything down today. It's just having the conversation about what, are these like, so the things that are listed here are things that are priorities for one reason or another. I mean, we know our comprehensive plan is a priority and we're on a glide path to getting that done. The housing plan has been, said that, okay, this is important, this is a priority. And so what does that look like for us? Because we've got things that our comprehensive plan says, and so then now we're looking at, well, how do we articulate that into something concrete that actually helps us move forward? So, so I think it's just, and I think we can have a continuing conversation. It's just when you're looking at the things we're planning to do, what advice would you give? Like, is there anything that pops up for anybody in terms of what should we be considering so that we can kind of, we know what this is and we can keep, we can keep our plan in front of us as we're going from meeting to meeting. It's just a way of keeping track and making sure we're kind of focusing our efforts on what we said was important. Commissioner Forsberg, do you have any thoughts on our plan? Any advice?
Talking about a housing thing, building type?
Just the overall work plan, like, so, we have the things that we're keeping track of to say, okay, these are the things that we wanted that have come up. And these are the things we're going to be working on over the next year. And so is there any advice or any thoughts that you have about like kind of the big picture of our work plan? Is there anything that we're missing? And then any ideas that you have in terms of,
Like the housing thing, it might be interesting to find out if somebody comes here to work, how many options there are, how many places are for rent. There's going out to the dump, there's 2 brand new buildings out there that somebody can move into it. Happen. Yeah. they'll be able to-
okay.
And Madam Chair, if I may. The priority 2 is the zoning review and updates, and part of our comprehensive plan update was to look at kind of an overall zoning code. So I don't know if City Manager Gagel, if you have spoken to AML at all, and if that would be kind of ahead of the priority for the housing needs assessment or not, in terms of discussing that with AML for their assistance. How does the commission feel about that? The priority.
So you think potentially the housing might be more, I mean, they're kind of there are 2 separate parts of our comprehensive plan that are giving us directions, right?
Mhm.
And so, certainly the alternative development is something that came up from the community and that seems to be important. So in terms of that, the commercial district rezoning may not be as pressing as other things. So that, that might, and then whether AML wants to do so of they can rather than specific aspects. And I'm not sure what their approach might be if they're giving advice on zoning.
Okay.
So I guess from the standpoint of what the comprehensive plan says is, I mean, basically we need to do continuous improvement on our zoning ordinances. And so we've done a comprehensive amount of that on our central business district. So we've done that, but then we have other areas of our community. And so in addition to these 2 items that have been identified, do you guys have a sense of what any of the other zoning districts have in terms of their need for review, from the standpoint of any comments that have been received from the community?
Not this time, but it would, I think, be wise to kind of look at the whole picture with those 2 identified and see if there's anything else, and maybe AML could help us with that approach.
Okay. Okay, and I think we have AML identified, I guess, as a potential external party. And then I guess one of the things that has come up is, you know, they have a capacity of what they can do too. So this may be just having that conversation, and I guess from the standpoint of the things that are in the comprehensive plan, there is, you know, there are different horizons. And so some of these things don't necessarily have to be done this year. They could be done at another time. And it may be that perhaps the housing, the housing issue is a higher priority than the, it's kind of tricky because some of the, so the, I think we have in that alternative development standards that goes to being able to help with housing. So it's like, and perhaps that's a good way of deciding, is like, if housing is our priority, and if we need to do revisions that are specifically related to helping housing be, you know, to do things to help housing meet the needs of the community, then maybe that's the thing that drives the priority in our work plan.
I think I know why I'm struggling with this. There's,
Okay.
oh shoot, I gotta open up the right window. So on page 2 of this, the last, like right before the chart, there's on page 2, it talks about goal L2, and then L2.1 is protect and support waterfront central business district. But then when you go down to the chart, it talks about commercial district. So in the line that says commercial district, is that really supposed to be waterfront?
No, there's actually a very small commercial district that is kind of where Jackaloff and Shoreline meet, and when I think it's Winifred, there's a small area. One time when they created that commercial district because they thought it might be a good idea to have something in addition to the central business district, but it is, but it may not be likely that we need another commercial district, because, you know, we're stretched with the commercial district that we have. So it's a conversation about whether that commercial district should be there, or if it needs to be changed to something else. And that could be, I think it could be, I guess it could possibly be waterfront commercial, or it could be residential, depending on the location of the lots.
Or commercial residential.
Commercial residential, and it, so, you know, yeah, so.
Okay. All
Does
right,
that-
so it's
Yeah.
getting more confusing. All right.
Yeah, so it's just through the chair, another issue that's been identified when we kind of looked at the overall zoning map, that has been maybe not utilized as commercial space. And so there are some inconsistencies in what things are zoned for and what they've been used for. And it, so that was just another issue that was identified kind of on a quick review of the zones that we have now.
The chair, and there's also a couple of conditional use permits in that zone already for residential use.
So it's more looking at it and cleaning it up and making it consistent to what it's actually being used for, and just having a discussion about it. So from, I guess from your perspective, is there anything else that you can think of to kind of put into this conversation about our work plan? And is there anything else that, as we're looking at this, that we should be considering, just so that we're kind of putting this together in a way where it makes sense and it's, and then we can just kind of work our way forward. Commissioner Kroll, do you have any other feedback?
Not right now, no.
Okay. And Commissioner Forsberg, any other further feedback? Okay, so this is, we'll just use this as a starting point and we'll continue to tweak it as we are doing our work and we get more information about any particular topic. Okay. And then any public comment?
I'm not seeing any.
Okay. And then, so on the Seldovia comprehensive plan, do we just skip that? We just have to wait until the next meeting on that item? And then item I, staff reports. Any upcoming open commission business?
So the upcoming open commission business has kind of been transferred to the work plan. I left it on there
Okay,
just to see if
okay.
there
But
were
we could
any
do-
other additions or updates, and if you'd prefer that they stay on the agenda, or we can kind of keep with this work plan for the.
Okay, so do you want to just substitute work plan for that going forward? And then if we have anything, we can. Okay. And then the city manager's update.
Yes, so thank you through the chair. They're in the laydown. There's a city manager's report that was provided to the Seldovia City Council during their January 26th meeting. I'll just go through it real quickly with some updates to date. So you guys get a little bit of the new scoop before before the city council meeting on Monday. We are still waiting for the environmental assessment to be approved for Jackloff Bay Dock. Hoping that is done here very shortly, and then we can issue out a design build RFP for that infrastructure. I'm still waiting for the grant to be executed itself, so we can't sign anything until that grant's executed. But we've been assured that it shouldn't take much longer past that approval of the environmental assessment. So as long as we don't sign anything, we can proceed with the RFP and hopefully get that project going. Additionally, we are working on the Jackloff Uplands application. Council had a discussion last month regarding an entry authorization that we received from DNR. They did direct the city manager to sign the entry authorization and move ahead with that process. However, there was a few questions that we're awaiting a response on for the city council, mainly about guidelines pertaining to the requirement of cleaning up that site, as well as ensuring that parking is an allowed use. It does say that we're going to construct parking, but there just needs to be a little clarification that parking is ongoing for that site, and signaling the intent of the city to complete a phase 1 environmental assessment. DNR, those inquiries were sent to DNR, and they're going up through the channels, and we're just waiting to hear back from them. The raw water transmission line replacement project is still on schedule. A contractor was hired, and we are working with the University of Alaska to move the easement from where it exists to the right of way. That way, for future generations, future maintenance and upkeep, it'll be a little bit easier because they can, instead of having to go through 50 years worth of vegetation to get to the pipe, they can access it through the road. The fuel facility improvements project, was extended, it actually was extended further to February 19th. I can't remember what day it was on there. I don't have it in front of me. 23rd. So it's somebody in town today for a site visit, been some interest surrounding it. There's just been a few questions regarding the engineering requirements for that project, since it's a design build project. I'm hoping that when that closes, we'll have a couple of good proposals and be able to work through that. As an aside, the northwest back panel of the facility did come loose on January 6th. And so we know that staff need to work on a repair for that as well. So the building is aging. It needs some love. Main Street, Seldovia stormwater infrastructure. I think you guys have heard what's going on with our stormwater infrastructure. If you want more details, let me know. We received a 65% design for both projects. There's one that's on Main Street for repairing and putting in new inlets, but one by the Gateway Pavilion and one by the boat launch ramp. And so the design for both of those pieces of infrastructure is in process, as well as replacing the culverts on Vista Avenue and putting some additional ditching and maybe some drainage pipe in to help direct flow water on Vista, and new culverts on Frank Gravy. So those are kind of fun ones that are coming around the corner, and hopefully we'll see some work done towards the end of the summer for those. I believe you guys have the latest information on the REVEEP and on the congressional direct spending request for road materials. I will say that it's not on here, but just as an update, I did hear that our congressional direct spending request that was submitted as a bundle with Alaska Municipal League for a piece of heavy equipment was approved in the recent budget. So we're looking at details, making sure that that's really the case. And if so, that's exciting. We may be receiving some funds to purchase a new backhoe in the near future. So we're hoping that that comes forward and is true. Senior meals is still going. Everything else here is kind of the same. The repeater for fire and EMS has had some ongoing issues, and we ended up receiving a loan repeater. The brand new one that they bought didn't work, so it's sent back, and hopefully those repairs are able to be made soon, and we can swap it out for the loan repeater. But for now, it's working, the system's working, and calls are going back through the radio instead of they were going to a dispatcher cell phone there for a little while, which was not super pleasant for that dispatcher. But we are back to the radio system and moving forward with that. We did hear from the Seldovia oh, no, not that one. We did hear from, on page 9, I don't have it on here, so never mind. But we had a request in for radios, and we did hear that was not approved. So we'll have to apply again.
That on line 15 emergency radio update.
It is.
The
I looked at it
firefighter
and then
grant.
I skipped right over it. Yep. So line 15, we did not receive that application, so we will have to put in a new application. Okay, so I think that's really where we're at. We have raw water happening, we have the fuel and lube roof happening, we have our storm waters happening. Oh, excitingly, we have this on line 23, the Denali Commission supporting USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service Programs and Partners for the Fish Creek Assessment is happening. They did invite us to submit a full application. Additionally, Paul Zico was able to work with Trout Unlimited to submit an application for the initial engineering and design of potentially removing that dam on Fish Creek. And so that has been submitted and looks very promising, like there should be some funds for that. So that's the first phase, not actually removing it, but getting that engineering work and design and cost estimates done. So that's huge. And ATS cybersecurity project is underway. So they're here and making those upgrades. We're still looking at doing some boardwalk improvements this summer, completing some improvements to the Andy Anderson Police Department this spring, and continue working through water issues in the community. There's been some big drainage issues. I don't know if you guys have been on the East Addition, but it was ponding and not flowing through the culverts like it needed to. Public Works has been working really diligently on that, and things seem to be moving again. And just different areas freezing, including the city office. We don't have water at the city office right now. But we continue to move forward. And let's see, we submitted our we haven't submitted our current congressional direct spending request for this year yet, but we did submit our CAPSIS. Council picked 4 projects. They picked, remember, the heavy equipment storage complex building planning project, harbor planning project, a backhoe, which we heard we may be getting, and a skid steer as our top 4 priorities for receiving funding from the state or from the FY27 congressional direct spending request. So we did get them submitted to the state, but we'll get those 4 also submitted. Well, maybe not with the backhoe, but the rest of them submitted to the appropriations request through Senator Murkowski's office here in the next week. You guys are aware the comprehensive plan draft public comment period closed on Monday. We had a couple of comments, not a lot, and I'm just waiting to hear back from Alaska Municipal League about having those organized and available for consumption and finishing up the final draft of that plan. Susan B. English School pool update. Myself and Liz Diamond, as the Seldovia Recreational Service Area Chair, did meet with the KPV Borough Mayor Peter Machicki a couple weeks ago. Seldovia Recreational Service Area had a meeting last week talking about how we can move forward as a community by providing funds to the district in order to operate the pool. And the Seldovia Recreational Service Area did just send out today a flyer, and it's gonna be a mailer too, so everybody should get it in their mailbox if you're a property owner in the Seldovia Recreational Service Area, requesting input on raising the mill rate an additional 1.0 in order to operate the pool for FY27. They're still looking at other options, but with the short timeline, this seems to be the most accessible option. And they're looking for feedback from the community if that's something that the community desires. So please, please, please provide that feedback. It's very important, one way or the other, on what that means for you. SVFD is working on their new logo, and they have a meeting coming up, a members meeting. So if you're interested in joining the fire department, fire and EMS, that flyer should be going out here soon. And so stay tuned and definitely please join. And then there's a commission update on there, but I don't think you guys need that. Last thing I'll say, or 2 things I'll say, is that the council is going into their budget season for FY27, looking at some different financial policies, capital projects, and then of course just overall operating funds for the general fund and special revenue funds. So you'll see several work sessions in the next couple of months on the Seldovia City Council budget. And if you guys have anything you are interested in or would like to see, let me know, and we can see what we can arrange there, as well as please attend and stay tuned for those. And we're also in the middle of our FY25 audit. So please let me know if you have any questions. Could I add an additional item?
Through the chair. So in the update under upcoming council business, there will be an ordinance introduced that would change our city elections to November. The borough passed a citizens initiative changing the borough elections to November to align with the state and federal. And the council has expressed support to align our city elections with November, all have them at the same time. So I just wanted to bring that up and make sure that people in the community are aware, and if they have comments or questions about that, or concerns, to let us know. And please also fill out the survey for the CIRSA. Yeah, a little plug for that, just because the borough mayor does want to see some responses from the community, one way or the other, just to know that it reached the community and that they've gotten a certain amount of input.
Thank you. And thank you so much for all your work on the pool.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweet, as well, because you have been very helpful in that capacity. The survey comments, we would like them by February 23rd.
Okay, and so we'll go to item J, informational items not requiring actions. I don't think we have any. And then. Commissioner Kroll, any comments?
No.
Okay, Commissioner Ryan.
No,
Okay, and Commissioner Forsberg.
There's a lot of information here. That's all I got.
Thank you all very much. Thanks to everybody, and thank you for coming. And then our next meeting is March 4th, 2026. And motion to adjourn.
We'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
We are adjourned at 7:13 or something. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
you're welcome.